following you, man. I don't know where to go.
The Dope Chief is an artist from Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Sort of like the art capital, I think, of Ontario. Back in October, he invited me out to a studio to be a fly on the wall and just take some footage of him working. When I got there, it just turned into a conversation where Dope Chief was detailing his experiences as an artist on the come up and sort of where he's at now. So it wasn't what I had planned for. And because of that, I wasn't sure what to do with the footage, but we did film the entire conversation. And I've just been sitting on this footage and I don't want to sit on it anymore. So I'm going to put it out. Keep in mind, it's a relatively raw format. There's not too much editing done to it. It was not what I was thinking, but I like that. I like that we still caught time. I like that we still caught a moment of a conversation of an artist expressing themselves, being able to try and manifest who they are through words and help others understand. So I'm glad we got the footage, and yeah, I hope you can take something from it. All right. Thanks for watching.
All right. Found it? Oh. It's crazy. It's cool. How's it going? We're just going in the studio here.
Sorry?
Yeah.
Not a problem, guys.
Sorry about that.
Simply late.
Ahoy! How's it going, man?
Morning.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well. Gallery room here, where we do events, we do shows or anything we have happening, usually happens here.
Cool.
Laundry over here. This is our shared space. We have Vaughn who does photography back there. He does photography, apparel, so he goes working on things. And then this here right here is more of a shared space. When we have artists who want to work in a quiet area, this is where they do that. But
amazing.
Pretty much welcome to work anywhere in this space. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
That's sick.
That is pretty much.
What's up there?
helps out my flow. So like when I'm doing events or when I get ready for events, I have to be like prepared for them mentally, more so than like anything else. Like weeks in advance, I have to like prep myself. Like I know this is coming up, I get out and I put my energy into this and like start blocking it out mentally. Otherwise, it becomes overwhelming for me.
Yes.
And then I'm just like, yeah, this is too much. So I've learned now that like it's best for me to like know as far in advance, just so that my mind starts settling in and being like, okay, well that weekend I got to be prepared to not be productive in other things that I want to do because I'm gonna be put my energy into that.
Yeah.
Decide if you like just the taco or you like the taco with the Aztec kind of background. That way our interaction happens through Instagram. So then it's more so just like communicating is so much easier. Or initially I start with emails just so I have a criteria of like what the commission entails, and then some commissions are like, just do this.
What was it like for you when you first had to start pricing out your art for people? Was that hard to dial in on?
Not too difficult. No, I think I figured out my formula for when I price things. Is the same kind of formula I give out to like new artists, which is essentially look at a project and in your mind and this isn't something you ever have to share with anyone. Like you don't have to share this with a client or anyone else, but look at a piece and then decide like what number when you look at that makes you happy, in the sense of like when you look at it, you know, say the painting is the size of this wall. If I got paid $1,000 for that, would I be happy walking away, or do I feel like they got, or it's gonna be more work than I'm getting out of it? And then see how far you are from that number to where you are realistically based on like how many commissions you've already done, how much materials you're going to be using. Because if you don't have a lot of experience doing new size commissions or whatever, it might take you a bit longer.
Yeah.
And that might not line up with what it should cost based on your skill. It's still nerve-wracking sometimes to like send big quotes out. Not everyone's going to go for your quotes, but they're just not your clients.
Right.
And I wasn't going to be happy working with them anyways if like they were too far apart.
Yeah. Well, it's cool because you're not pricing the project. You're pricing your peace of mind.
Essentially,
to some degree.
Yeah. I make sure that there are people who are aware of like what my style is, because no matter what you do or how long you do it, like people are always gonna assume because you're an artist, you can do anything. Or like, hey, I want a portrait of my dog. I don't do portraits. Or
Yeah.
Like, I can't, just don't want to, or like that's not my style, or like that's not something I want to invest my energy in. So I'm I'm more picky about how I go about the projects I work on.
Because that can be a detriment to you overall, and like your your linear canon of your work, if it kind of diverts you off in a path you don't want to be in.
Yeah, and it really depends on like how much of that you're used for to grow your business, right? So like if I'm putting every project I'm working on social media and I'm using those projects to get other clients, then whatever I'm working on is what people are going to see, and then you're going to track more of that, right?
Yeah.
So a big part of why I stopped doing fan art for a few years was because that's all people wanted. And there's nothing against it. Like, I'm nothing against that. It's a great way of making money. I've never connected that, like when I first started out maybe, but like since then I haven't connected with fan art. I think I'm more comfortable going back and doing that kind of work, even though it's not the kind of work I want to promote, because I've already established a style enough that like I can turn those commissions away, or I can embrace them, and it won't affect how I view or how I'm viewed. The work I'm creating isn't pigeonholed. I strictly started with fan art because I knew that people connect instantly with nostalgia. People will see Homer Simpson and know it's Homer. That's the first thing they recognize, and their brain instantly opens that door of familiarity with that character because they've already built some sort of connection with that cartoon, with that story, whatever it is. And then their brain goes to the secondary thing, which is do I like it? Like, do I like the style, or what's being said here? What's different about it? So I really wanted to capitalize on that aspect of grabbing people's attention, especially when I was starting out. I was selling art on like the street, like at art crawls. So you have very little amount of time to grab someone's attention, and when they can connect instantly with someone or with some artwork, then it holds them long enough to then maybe look at another piece and then see what's going on. By 2017, I would say I completely stopped doing fan art, and then from there till now, it was taking everything I had learned from doing fan art and applying it to the original content.
And I think it's such like a punk rock thing to do, is to repurpose culture, and especially in like an art crawl and people walking by.
Absolutely. And I don't think people are as aware of like how other artists have taken things that have made them huge artists, and all these things have been inspired to come from previous creators. One brings that artwork back and they remix it a little bit, and suddenly people are like, this is incredible, this is amazing. And it's because the source material was that itself, but it's also the voice that the artist adds to that thing that makes it a little different, and that connects with people who know the original source, and then to a whole new audience. It comes from a lot of like conversations I've had with artists about just like how they view things, how they feel their art is viewed, or how they feel maybe even they view art, with like, not being original, or not having the imagination or the creativity to do new things, and that can really close you off to a lot of things. I look at some of my favorite artists, even like one of my favorite rappers is Mace from the 90s, right? Like, he made crazy hits, and they're all beats that were remixed from hits of the 80s. And it's like, growing up, that wasn't something I knew because I just wasn't exposed to music in the 80s. Intro might have been Mace, right?
Yeah.
And it's the same thing I'm seeing now with like, even say Drake will take songs that were big in the early 2000s. He'll take those beats and he'll do, and people are like, this is amazing. I'm like, yeah, but this is something already.
Yeah.
But it's an artist taking something and adding their own thing to it, paying homage to it, because it's not hiding it, in the sense of like, if you know where it came from, that's paying tribute to it. You can find inspiration in everything. So why not take things that really move you and amplify those things?
I wonder if art being commoditized so heavily has something to do with it. Because back in the day, blues artists, even, you would sing each other's songs all the time. And it was less of stealing and more of somebody built an infrastructure upon which we can all stand, instead of something that they're selling back and forth.
Yeah.
I'm curious on the economy's role on like capitalism's role on how we perceive just art, how we look at it now.
Once you have a system built on survival being dependent on money, everything changes. And I think when, for example, like culture, when you're talking about blues or even jazz culture, it comes from a group of people that were looked differently, right? They were not welcomed within society. So they built their own culture, things that brought them together, I think more so out of necessity. When you look at how that kind of genre was created. And I think that's really important because, again, it comes from a system that was built on money. And there's always going to be artists who take something and they don't do a good job of remixing it and they put it out. Always. And I don't think that's ever going to change. And I think that's just a byproduct of the kind of society we live in, which is ruled by capitalism. Because if there were true marks of culture or true things that spoke to people and money wasn't a thing, I think you'd see a lot less of it.
Yeah.
And you see more genuine things being created based on culture and connection. It's crazy because, again, money gives you all those tools to advance creativity and make new discoveries all through, because people have access to crazy technology, they're not thinking about how to support themselves, right? And I think that's why like artists will find places that are abandoned, places that the value of isn't high, because if the rent's not high, then it gives you a little bit of leeway to kind of focus on the thing that drives you, right? I think that's why artists are the first to take over places that are kind of looked over, and then also the first to get kicked out.
But it's amazing that artists bring that value, you know?
Yeah.
Like they can turn something that is perceived to have no value and make it the most valuable thing on earth.
Right. It's like lobster. It used to be just given to the poor and enslaved. And it takes artists like chefs and people who know how to cook, and they put their love into cooking, into making it something that is valued so much now. And it's not looked that way for the poor. It's the opposite. And I think when people add their like passion to things, they can really enrich it.
I'm always interested in the moving line. I feel like independent creativity in your life, I guess the universe is an organism and everything moves as a wave, but I feel like there's a threshold that once you have all the tools and everything you need and you no longer have that adversity, like art tends to either become, I don't want to say it suffers, it could just relate to less people at that point.
Yeah, especially in music, right?
Yeah, particularly in music,
In
big time.
music, people talk about the hardships, the coming up.
But then you get some cases, because I think you can take an example like Kanye West, for example, who is perceived as just being like a maniac. But I'm not going to disagree with that, but I am like interested in what he's doing because he's so unique in that sense. And what is the role of the artist then, if you're looking at that, when society places value on the struggle and then kind of loses it when you're just not really dying in any way, you're not bleeding, and then they put it back on somebody who's like a martyr at that. What does it mean? What does that make art, you know?
It's a great question. I think Kanye's an interesting artist to look at because Warhol, for example. Warhol was huge in pop art, and during the 80s, his 70s, 80s, he was doing crazy shit that I think about a lot of these artists, and I think about some of the most influential artists that I admire, like their not even necessarily their artwork, but them as creators and their process and their life and the story that they kind of have throughout their art career. It's very fascinating to me, but it's also the thing that that gives me some interesting perspective is we're the first to see the internet, right? I can't imagine, I think about him, Warhol never even knew what computers were in the capacity that we do, right? And he was all about media. He had some very interesting works about just documenting people and how he did these art films and the kind of the idea of how he viewed visual art and the printmaking process, and how you would view that now. Technology changed so much, and to see the artists that are coming out now, like Kanye, who, he's a producer and he got a lot of his notoriety from the kind of music, the beats he produced and the beats he made for the artists and the art that he samples, right? And it's you have no idea, because when Kanye West was presenting it, it's his original thing. So you're hearing these things that other people have worked for, made popular and decades ago, and might have been lost. Definitely to me, because it's not a genre of music that I would have looked into. But he goes and picks them, finds certain, rhythms or beats or whatever, and pieces them all together. And it's fascinating to see, because it's he has an ear for it, and stuff that you can only do now because of the technology we have. So Kanye's very interesting because his career models the growth of the internet, and then to see someone's entire, mental health, growth, spiral, all through that lens. I think we're going to talk about Kanye the same way people talk about Warhol, where you look back at his life and he had this place called a factory, and it was wild, and the parties and all these things, and he knew Basquiat, and they had a collab, and he was in New York around the same time as Keith Haring. It was crazy time for those artists to exist, and they didn't have the internet. I don't put creatives on pedestals anymore the way I might have when I was younger. I enjoy what they create, and that's about it.
Yeah. So if anything, it's more of an idolization of the work.
The work,
Yeah.
Because I used to struggle with this thing of like, for me, I don't believe you can separate art from artist, right? I don't believe you can do that. I think art is influenced by the creator. Obviously, they're the ones putting it out. And I think when you try to, or when you argue that, you can, to me, I think that comes from just a selfish place of being like, I enjoy this thing. I still want to enjoy this thing, regardless if this creator is a menace to society. And I get that, because like, if we had to villainize every artist who had a shitty life,
All of them, pretty much, yeah.
all of them would be in jail.
Like art comes from suffering to some degree, and when you're suffering, bad shit is sometimes associated with that.
There are really shitty people who make good art.
And you got to think, if they didn't have the art, they might even be shittier people.
Yeah, exactly. This is a whole other way of how I view creating, but the idea or the concept that ideas don't belong to us, they just find us.
Mm-hmm.
So we can become better vessels to open our minds up to more ideas, and we do that through experience, through having multiple perspectives, through just opening ourselves up to more life, and then more ideas will find us, and we can become a better vessel for those ideas. I think the one thing that helped me with that concept of separating art and artists was the idea that like artists are just vessels for these ideas, and they themselves are shitty because suffering and the cards they were dealt and whatever it is, but the art that comes from them isn't necessarily a reflection of them. It is a reflection of the attention they gave that idea. Maybe it's even better, but those ideas don't belong to us. Anything I create does not belong to me. Those ideas have only found me because they know these entities, these ideas, know that I give energy to these specific types of ideas. And when I give them energy, it means that they can exist. So sometimes if a vessel is a terrible person, but it spends its energy on big ideas, then these ideas will find this vessel. And they're not biased, they're not good or bad. And an idea will shift into whatever you give energy to. Paving oil, I can do like some pretty dope like portraits, and I love it, and I feel so satisfied. It's just the time it takes to do. Oh my god, shoot me. I'm trying to find a way around it because I want to mix more of like my realism with kind of the pop art vibe things that I do, but it's for that reason alone. Like I have zero patience. So I love working in acrylic because acrylic dries in 15 minutes. And if you're working with a heat gun, it's like 30 seconds.
Damn.
I'll layer it. You know what I mean? Like heat gun, next layer. Oh, it's so good. But I just, once I get going on something, my patience is one no.
Is that you think that's a benefit to you? Like well, I guess you have to kind of leverage.
Yeah.
You got to find strengths in your weaknesses, perceived weaknesses.
Yeah, sure. Oh, for sure. Yeah. It definitely like has dictated like the way I go about creating and stuff, how like the things I can and can't do. And in 2021, I think, I was I finally got like a clear diagnosis for ADHD, and it was something that I knew I had for my entire life. I remember like one of the first like the earliest photos I have, and I'll post it on Instagram sometimes, of myself I have is when I'm in like kindergarten, I think it is, or grade 1. And my teacher had taken the photo because I look so grumpy in the photo. I'm just playing with these signs in the classroom, and then behind me, in the back of the classroom, you see the rest of the class, all the kids playing sandbox, and I'm just there alone playing with these signs. And I always would get overstimulated around too many people, and I always would doodle in class. So I'd always be working on some sort of sketch or something, and I could never for the life of me pay attention in school. And there were times in school where I absolutely hated art. It made me feel really stupid. It made me feel really outcasted, because I thought that by focusing on creating, by like doing these doodles, I wasn't able to pay attention to the teacher. And then I'd be put into with these special ed kids because I wasn't able to keep up. And I always felt really down on myself, because art's the thing that I keep doing that I shouldn't be. I should be listening in class. Being however young I was, to me, art was the reason for these things, when really it was my brain. The only thing it could focus on was creating these little comics or doodling and stuff like that. And that's how I became good at art, was that I would spend all this extra time doing these things, not knowing I was really just practicing. So I failed art in high school. I dropped out of my program at Sheridan. Academically, art was never good for me. I could never do it. But I learned how to harness that type of fixation on things until it got really bad and I couldn't do it anymore. My mental fatigue got so bad where I'd be in the studio, have zero distractions, no stress about anything, and my mental fatigue was so high I couldn't do anything. And I knew at that point, like, this is starting to hinder my growth. It's not that I don't have the ideas. It's just that doing it was like, it seemed like the craziest mountain, and I wouldn't be able to do it. So then I was like, I gotta deal with this properly. I gotta try everything I can.
I gave you some from my other friend Adam.
Yeah.
This is my friend Stevie. She did phenomenal work. So, yeah.
That's dope.
Yeah. I'm trying to make sure I'm getting out there, but no, I wanted to drop a few of these off here so that any artists, if they want them, if they smoke, they can
So
take
you,
it.
You do.
I do the woodworking in it.
The woodworking. Yeah. And you do, like, is this machined? How is this, like, do you hand, like, I'm assuming it's a bit of both, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I do a bit of lathe work. I also do all the hand sanding and stuff like that.
Sanding's the worst.
Yeah. So like, when it is ever something like that, I cut everything out and it goes into my next block. So absolutely nothing I have will be thrown away. Everything gets recycled because, as you know, everyone wants custom and everyone wants recycled.
Yeah.
So it covers all those categories in one.
And this is stainless steel?
Yes. I also do titanium as well. Yeah. Not many people ask for it though, so I don't
Really?
order it as often. Yeah, it's starting. I think the trend is starting to move that way now.
Yeah.
Because I've had like 2 stores that are like, I won't take stainless. So yeah, I feel like
What's the
it's,
difference?
I don't know personally. So, but like the one store is like, oh my head dabber told me she can feel it in her lungs when she dabs with stainless. And I was like, if you feel it, I'll change it for you.
You
But
take them on like a blind dab test.
exactly, yeah. Just put it in, not like
See
yeah.
how do you feel about
Yeah, exactly, yeah. But sorry, I'll leave a few of these here for people, and
Do you
if
have like a
anybody,
card or anything I can leave?
I'll leave some stickers. Yeah, I don't have any business cards at the moment. I ran out, which I was gonna bug you about, Ryan, to send me those files so I can print some more or get some more printed myself.
Sure.
But yeah, if any artists ever want to collaborate or anything too, like I'm perfectly down with doing that. I want to work with as many people as I can.
And where do you sell these now?
Just straight up on Instagram right now. I'm gonna start an Etsy shop soon. I was very self-conscious about it at first and thought it was a big step. So,
Yeah.
but now that I've gotten over myself, I'm hoping to do that.
Yeah, that's dope.
Thank you.